Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the Whitman-Hanson Regional School Committee meeting of March 19th, 2025. Reminder that we are being televised and recorded by WHCA. If everybody at this time would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you would please remain standing, we're going to have a presentation of the Star-Spangled Banner.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. And no comment.
No comment?
No. Okay, so there's no public comment. So the next is a student presentation from the Whitman-Hanson Regional High School, the music department.
We're lucky enough to present aspects of our school as we go through these school committee meetings each month, and I feel lucky enough to be able to present a program that's very special here at the high school, and that's the music program. As you all know, we had two esteemed music teachers a couple of years back that retired, and we went upon the task of finding two new teachers that would come in with the idea and the vision of growing the music program, involving more students, which meant modernizing a lot of things and taking a different approach, something that would engage more students. Well, we struck gold. We have Mr. Brian Rowe and Mr. Greg Daigle as our two new music teachers, sort of new music teachers. They've been here a couple of years, but what they've done with the program as far as engaging students, growing it, expanding it, we have students that are playing in front of the committee. We have a concert series that goes on during the school day. We have nightly shows, if you've ever been lucky enough to come to one of these, where we have our students performing music here in the library with different pieces of art in conjunction with related arts. So I can't offer them enough kudos or congratulations, and especially the students that have really stepped forward and picked it up and gone forward with the program. So without further ado, because it's more important to hear from them than me, I'll introduce Mr. Daigle and Mr. Rowe.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for having us. I know we have been preparing for this for a couple of weeks, and we've been very excited to tell you a little bit about what's been going on in the program, some of the things we've added, and some of the incredible opportunities we've given to our students. I know as now a current resident of Whitman, it's not only my professional goal to help build this music program, but also a personal goal of mine as I look towards developing my life here in Whitman. And so we're very excited to bring you a little bit and show you a little bit of what we have been working on. It's not a lot to hear from me, and I'd actually love a few of my students to come up and talk to you all about all of our achievements and all of the incredible events that we've put on. These are members of our Tri-M Music Honor Society, who were established last year, which helps to engage students with our musical students in community service through music. So I'm going to bring them up one at a time, and they will tell you a little bit about our program. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the school committee, administration, family, and community members. My name is Kyla Rando, and I'm the treasurer of the Whitman-Hanson chapter of Triam, a nationally recognized music honor society established by the National Association for Music Education, which is committed to community service through music performance and outreach. March is recognized nationwide as Music in Our Schools Month, a special time when schools across America celebrate and highlight the critical importance of music education. Here at Whitman-Hanson, music isn't just another subject. It's a vital part of our school community, shaping our identity, fostering school spirit, and contributing significantly to students' academic and personal development. Thank you to the members of the high school band and choir who performed earlier. As we celebrate this month, we're reminded by NAFME research that music education strongly correlates with student achievement, including improved reading comprehension, better math skills, and increased motivation and engagement in school. Music participation develops critical thinking, problem-solving skills, and creativity skills essential for 21st century careers. Today, we want to share updates about the amazing developments within our music department across all grade levels. Our music classes and ensembles from kindergarten through grade 12 encourage students to explore traditional and innovative music forms. Each class helps students foster a positive self-image, confidence, and lifelong creativity. As we discuss the program, please enjoy the slideshow highlighting memorable musical moments throughout the past school year.
My name is Adam Harden, and I serve as the Vice President of the Triam Music Honor Society. Whitman-Hanson High School offers a wide range of musical opportunities that cater to diverse interests and talents, including musical theater, majorettes, concert band, marching band, jazz ensemble, jazz combo, concert choir, 2 audition rock bands, and our artist collective. Our music teachers commit a ton of time into creating new ensembles which showcase the musical interests of the students they work with. They also have introduced new courses such as Intro to Piano, Music History, and Music Theory to further expand how music is taught at the high school level. We have also seen incredible participation in our musical theater program, which has created a new avenue for students to sing, dance, and act. Our shows and concerts have been an incredible highlight and in the school community, and we are looking forward to further engaging the student body. During our newly implemented WIN block, students have been given the opportunity to further explore their own musical interests with activities like songwriting and recording with Mr. Daigle, individual practice time, and small focused lessons to develop their skills. This year, students have performed at WIN Live concerts, which are professionally recorded and videotaped. This has fostered an inclusive and vibrant musical community with students who are discovering their new love for music. According to the NAFME high school students involved in music demonstrate enhanced skills in practice, perseverance, collaboration, and constructive feedback. These qualities are highly valued in higher education and throughout the workforce. Over the last 3 years, more than 1/3 of our high school students have actively engaged with music, reinforcing its essential role in our school's culture. Many seniors have also chosen to pursue careers in music, including majors like music education, music production, music business, and composition. These students have been accepted into institutions such as the Berklee College of Music, Ithaca College, UMass Amherst, University of Southern California, and many more. This engagement is further recognized through our students' acceptance into prestigious regional and state-level ensembles, including SEMMEA, SEMSBA, and the Massachusetts All-State, demonstrating our department's commitment to musical excellence and providing pathways to successful careers in music education and production. Each year, about 10% of our music students are accepted into these ensembles, allowing them to showcase their talents along with other incredible music students from across Massachusetts. Our middle and elementary school music programs currently engage over 250 students, continually growing each year due to the outstanding work of our music teachers. Early and sustained participation in music significantly contributes to cognitive development, emotional maturity, and social skills, and our students establishing a foundation for lifelong success. Students engage in after-school band, choir, and theater activities, which further help to develop their musical skills. Small group lessons and daily ensemble rehearsals help students to practice daily in an inclusive and engaging classroom environment. NAFME emphasizes that early music education promotes language development and enhances memory and attention span. Our music teachers in Whitman-Hanson inspire students daily, cultivating confidence, a love of music, and fostering a community where each student can thrive.
Music profoundly impacts my life and that of my peers by offering unique social, creative, and academic benefits. Through music, I've developed friendships, leadership abilities, and a powerful means of self-expression. Participation in music has enhanced my academic focus, taught me valuable collaborative skills, and given me the determination to achieve personal goals. The discipline, teamwork, and confidence gained from music education reach far beyond the classroom. NAFME studies consistently show that music students excel academically and socially, highlighting the far-reaching benefits of music and shaping capable, compassionate, and creative individuals. Looking ahead, we're excited about numerous upcoming events such as our spring concerts, our production of the musical Bright Star, community parades, Spring for the Arts, graduation ceremonies, WIN live concerts, Whitman Day, and Whitman's 150th anniversary celebrations. These events help connect our school to the broader community, showcasing our students' talents and reinforcing the importance of music as an integral part of our shared cultural heritage. We are actively seeking ways to boost enrollment in our traditional ensembles and are creating avenues to make music and the arts a focal point for students when considering where they plan to attend high school. Thank you for your continued support of our music program and your belief in its invaluable impact on our students and our community.
My name is Mr. Daigle. I'm the choir teacher here, and we just want to thank you one more time for your support of the music program throughout the years. As an alum myself, who got a great music education here and came back to continue that on. Again, we just can't thank you for the support, and we look forward to hearing about all the great things as we move into the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for any of the folks? I just want to thank you folks for keeping the program and actually expanding the program where so many schools now are falling short and losing such programs as the cultural programs. And instead of losing, we're gaining. So I just want to express my appreciation and keep going. It's great to see. Thank you.
Chair, I think there's actually a movement towards expanding it at the lower levels. I was at URI, I think we talked about it, because it actually reduces IEP and special ed costs. With special ed costs going through the roof, all the foundational information that they talked about, when kids it sort of primes the mind for education. So there's a lot of expansion of early music and arts. Autistic kids with theater as well. There's a lot of that conversation. Jeff knows more about it than I do. But.
We'll keep growing, and with these guys up at the high school, it was, as Dr. Jones said, pure gold. And they've done everything that we've asked them to do and expanded the academic portion. They actually, I kind of fed them a class that my son took in music history that he loved, and these guys have developed a curriculum to do that, to engage music in a different way in just participation, but learning about the history of music in America, which is pretty cool. So they're doing a nice job.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Don?
Yeah, I want to thank you both for the work you're doing as teachers and then event planners.
Yeah, right.
I run events when I run parades, we know, and graduation, and Whitman's 150th, and so many more that, and so the time that you are spending is I can't even imagine. And doing it without, I will note, the district doesn't have a fine and performing arts director position that some districts do. We have an athletic director who handles, facilitating all those sports teams and events as well. Can't thank you enough for what you do and hope that we can continue to expand it.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, and, yes, I'm sorry, Steve.
Of course, you're teaching the students sight reading as well? Okay. I've been playing for 40 years and I'm just starting to sight read myself. Metronome.
Same.
Getting better and better.
We can sign, we
Bass
could,
clef, but bass clef.
they're here from 7:05 to 1:40. We can work it in a class for you, you know.
Well, we used to have adult ed programs here, like dance and music. Maybe we should start bringing it back.
It's a little something else for your plate.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's not full.
Oh, hey, you get extra pay.
I struggle with key signature.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. So we don't have any student advisors here today, so, oh, I'm sorry.
If I may, right, there's no student advisory tonight, they'll be back. I don't know if we're meeting next week, but we can discuss that when they'll come with their goals and updates.
Okay.
Before we do meeting minutes, I'd like to make a motion to see if the committee would like to vote, take out of order the agenda item for the FY26 discussion and vote. So my motion is.
I second that because I think that the minutes, it'll make sure that we're really focusing on the meat of what we're doing tonight. And then, minutes are easy, but this is important, this budget. We've got people in here just for the budget.
You want to do it before the meeting minutes approve? Or right
My motion
after?
is to take the FY26 discussion item on the agenda and vote before.
Do it next.
Do it next. And then carry on with all other agenda items after we take care of the discussion.
Okay, all right, so we have a motion. Do I have a second?
A second?
She already seconded.
Okay, and so any discussion, first of all? Okay, all in favor of moving the discussion? Okay, unanimous. All right, so next we will go.
All right, so since we're out of order, which is fine, and I do think there are some folks in the audience, I would just ask the public and the committee to take a moment and pause in silent reflection for Bill Stafford, the husband of our chair, who passed last week after a long, courageous battle with Lewy body dementia.
Thanks.
Thank you for that.
Thanks.
Absolutely. So, voting the FY26 budget assessments, today's the deadline for us. My recommendation to the committee, you've all seen the presentation of the budget. I've had an opportunity to go to a joint meeting with the Whitman Finance Committee and Select Board, excuse me. I am going next week to a joint meeting of the Whitman Finance Committee and Select Board at 6 o'clock next Tuesday, and at 7:15 I will be at the Hanson Finance Committee if Whitman doesn't run late. But I told Kevin over at Hanson that I'll be there as soon as I can to discuss where we're at. The goal tonight is to set the assessment. I did meet with the Whitman Finance Committee, and if I can take the liberty to just speak about that, last week I think it was a productive meeting with the Finance Committee. Some good questions from the chair who shared those answers with the committee. The committee kind of has an idea of where the school budget is and the prospectus of where our 5-year plan was. We're not so far off of fiscal 26 of where we were looking in fiscal 22, what fiscal 26 was going to look like. We knew this was going to be a difficult budget year. And both towns have shared thoughts in writing, in the paper, out vocally, that both towns are struggling financially, and there will be a need or a potential need for an override for fiscal 26 for both communities, to not only include the district budget, but for services that are provided through the municipalities of both towns. Those numbers have not been shared with us yet, and I'm hoping to have those next week. However, due to the law that says we have to assign an assessment 45 days prior to town meeting, I don't have those numbers for you, and 45 days is tomorrow. So I'm asking the committee to really affirm the assessment that I provided to you in February at the budget presentation. That's a number that can't rise, and we have never traditionally brought that number up after we assigned it. However, we have brought it down. I'm not asking the committee to bring this down at this point because the numbers provided by the two towns, there's no budget outside of a potential override. So I'm going to ask the committee to stay firm on the assessment that I provided to you at our budget hearing in February.
Okay, so could I have a motion to do that, and then we'll have discussion?
Motion.
to approve of the assessment. Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all right, discussion. George?
In the past, we've voted the motion with the legal language.
And I think to try to open up the discussion, I was just going to open up, I would then take that motion, once the discussion is there, to re-motion what the assessment number is
just for
actually.
discussion.
And have that read it. I want to have that discussion because I know we have a couple of select board members here that might want to share some things before we open that figure out.
Okay.
Okay.
So if I may, Chair.
Yes.
I have prepared some comments, and then I just have one question.
Sure.
So I thought back to 4 years ago on this committee, and former chair Chris Howard and the committee worked together with some workshops over the summer. We made some planning for, talked about full-day kindergarten at that time, talked about robotics and so forth, and really set goals. And it felt like with the committee, where we're going, as a district, what we want. And we also had a workshop at that time with MASC, and they helped us with the committee and the superintendent relationship. And they were very firm, and I remember it distinctly because it was what and the how. The committee decides what they want for the district, what's in the budget. The superintendent does the how. So, for example, what we want is full-day K, superintendent decides how many classrooms, how many teachers, staff, et cetera. So the what and the how. And while we made progress on smaller class sizes and so forth, I feel like this budget in particular, there wasn't as much dialogue in advance over what the budget was going to entail, what it was going to include. Happy that it maintains and continues everything. But I wonder if there's a bit of it that might be lopsided. And I say that as far as spending within the budget, and I'm asking the question, certainly our spending should be fiscally responsible, but is the money being spent with the greatest impact on student achievement? So I reference, and when I say lopsided, I reference area towns. So we're going online, you can see Jesse's per pupil expenditure for 2023. Whitman-Hanson's at $17,000. That includes our state aid. And East Bridgewater is $1,000 less per pupil. I've confirmed with their program of studies that they do offer some world languages in the middle school. They do offer a tech robotics program. They do offer Portuguese language for ninth graders. Hanover is actually steady with Whitman-Hanson now. So we see we've come up to, not at the bottom, but we're right where these other towns are. And I confirmed today with a Hanover school committee member, they are offering world language in the middle school. We know it's not in this budget, but I'm wondering how are we spending our money? Where is it spent? I want to comment on charter schools. We heard last time, charter school has passed by the Board of Education expansion. So based on the current charter school enrollment, and I'll tell you that when that South Shore Charter School started in November, they are now double in capacity that size. They're growing. So while there was a previous ballot question to not expand and not open new charter schools, it might as well have, because this one in South Shore has doubled in size and they're going to grow. Based on, they have a 400-person waiting list right now. And based on the percentages of Whitman and Hanson kids going to that charter school, we'll easily lose 25 to 30. But, I don't know particularly who's on the waiting list, but numbers say we're going to keep losing kids. So my question is, how do we keep kids here, right? That's how are we spending our money? How do we keep them here? And I'm actually looking big picture, long term, not particularly in this budget, but hoping in future committees, because I may not be sitting at this table come June. Career Tech Education is the new CTE acronym for vocational schools. Mm-hmm. So there are actually 43 programs approved by DESE for vocational, 43 programs. We know South Shore VOTEC has about 12. They use 12 of those 43, and they're adding 2. Weymouth Public Schools has 10 career tech ed programs. They get Chapter 74, that's vocational funding, in their foundation budget. Silver Lake has 7. They have 340 kids at Silver Lake High School in a vocational program that's in that public school, that public high school. The foundation budget rate when you have a vocational student in the high school is $17,000. Our high school kids here in the foundation budget, we get $11,000. there's state aid to be had, we could have a Chapter 74 vocational program in this school. I'll run down. Dayton Rehoboth has them. Brockton, Plymouth Public Schools has over 700 kids. West Bridgewater, East Bridgewater, Rockland, Duxbury, Hanover, Hingham, Pembroke, all are getting Chapter 74 vocational career tech ed programs in their high schools. We hear enrollments going down, costs going up. Whitman, Article 2 spending per student, so just taxpayer money in Whitman, not counting state aid. Whitman pays $9,000 for each student out of their Article 2. South Shore Tech, they pay $11,000. Charter school, paying $15,000. Bristol Aggie, $28,000. Norfolk Aggie, $29,000. So when a town tries to say, Whitman-Hanson, your costs are going up, they're too much. We're the cheapest deal out of all those public schools, all those schools. I'm glad this committee is not falling for the false narrative that the towns can't afford the education and the budget that we're presenting. I listened to South Shore Tech's Dr. Hickey state when his committee certified their budget in February. And he said, the town financial teams are baking it into their budgets. He set the assessment. They set the assessment. Towns are baking it in, he said. He didn't flinch one bit with his members because he knows the assessment's going right to town meeting floor and the people will decide what they want to fund for education. Thank you for the time, Chair. My question is just in reference to our bond rating. So I'm going to go back to the call that transpired January 27th. I wasn't on that call. I was on an airplane flight, so it wasn't for lack of wanting to be involved. At that time, the senior advisor from Unibank recommended establishing stabilization accounts to keep financial reserves above the 5% threshold, which is crucial for maintaining a strong bond rating. So I'm just asking, in this current budget, are we funding any stabilization accounts? Are we establishing them? Are we at minimum funding an OPEB line that the towns are funding also in their budgets? So based on that, I'll make a decision on how I can support this budget or not, but I want to be sure we're looking long-term, stability of this district and protecting that bond rating overall. So if there's any feedback, Superintendent, you can give as far as, OPEB funding and those lines.
So I'm going to defer to Steve on that, but I can answer a couple questions for you. So yes, we've looked about Chapter 74 funding. I would love to establish some sort of vocational program here. We're limited on space right now in this high school here. Every classroom is full. There might be some flexibility once the new middle school is built, and if there's a decision from this committee to move the preschool out of this high school, which would free up some space to potentially grow more multi-developmental programs for our students.
There's a vacant lot in Whitman specifically designed for education. So if this committee wanted to vote for education and ask the town of Whitman, we can use Park Ave, build some form of.
Jill needs a lot of work.
I'm just saying, but long term.
I understand.
They're not doing anything else with that property.
We have two buildings, not just one.
So I think that we are looking long-term. I think, what has come out, and again, I'm hoping to get some more information from both communities, that this was going to be a tight fiscal year. So this is why we didn't try to add multiple programs to this budget. My concern is passing a budget at town meeting where there's not going to be an impact on student learning. And we're gearing up for a fight after tonight to go forward with both communities. And I say fight in a positive way to support our kids. I think this is a fair way to get our students what they need and start growing them in the future. If both communities have a financial plan as far as a potential override going forward, Stephen has already submitted assessments that are sustainable for the communities and will grow our school if those overrides pass. That we've been asked that question. They're not level service budgets going forward. There should be some gains in that, at least through fiscal 28, and that's what's being asked. But as far as this budget right now, my concern is getting this passed without impacting the current staffing that we have in place for fiscal 26. And Steve, you can answer that question on OPEB before.
Yeah, there's nothing in the budget that's funding any stabilization funds. There's not any stabilization stabilization accounts that have been set up in the district.
Or the OPEB.
There's no funding in there right now for OPEB either.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment too. Unfortunately, we used to have vocational up at this high school. We used to have wood shop, we used to have metal shop. My son participated in that. Unfortunately, what happened, one of the reasons that it was canceled, it actually was the old building, not enough kids were participating. I think because they were leaving for Voc Tech. So, because I was ready to fight for it, and I was told that it would be a useless fight because there were only 9 students who signed up for the wood shop. You know, my son ended up owning his own construction firm and everything, so too bad that they didn't keep it, and it's unfortunately.
So I should clarify, because the law states we can't compete with South Shore Voc. We're a member, so every program South Shore Voc offers, 14 of them, we can't offer here. But that's why I distinctly said there are 43 total approved programs. And one of them is early education and care. There are 3 business ones, marketing and business, and there's also 3 medical, allied health. Well, they have allied health, I think, but there's, so
And we have
there's
business, yeah.
Some of them are not trades, construction, mechanical,
Yeah.
require a lot of space.
Yeah.
Their business, their technology, their engineering. So I don't think it's going to require a lot of physical space or equipment even. So I think it's important that I would ask people to look at those 43 programs that are online on DESE. Career Technical Education, CTE, you'll find it. You look vocational, I don't know you're going to find that word on anymore, but it's CTE.
And the thing of it is too, with our expanding programs that we have, we should find out how many do you have to get Chapter 70, 74.
74.
How much?
Chapter 74.
Yeah, right. How many programs do you have to get that?
I think you get it.
Yeah, East Bridgewater has 11, Rockland has 11, West Bridgewater has 6. I think they may only be running one program.
Yeah.
But they're doing it to keep kids
Yeah,
in,
right.
or a specialty. So
Yeah.
we got to start somewhere.
And I'm wondering if some of our programs would already qualify.
Pathways or something.
Yeah, the pathways would already qualify.
So hold on, I was raising.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I want to elaborate. 74 gives more aid for special ed. So when you're getting grants, you're actually getting a larger chunk for your special ed kids. So to help to ensure equity and ability within that. So when you're getting more aid when you implement 74 programs than you are when you implement 70. So that's it, Adam. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the budget and
Okay, wait a minute. We're still talking on
John's issue.
Dawn's issue. Did you have a question on it?
Sorry, my question or my comment was kind of, I think, covered, or someone just said it briefly. I'm just curious about if maybe there is a path in the next however many years to move the Career Pathways program forward to fall under one of these categories.
That's what I was thinking,
it
too.
feels like that makes sense. My other quick comment was just regarding, John, to your point, I think that unilaterally every member town for South Shore Technical seemed to be heavily in support of the additional assessment for the new school, which rightly so. It just to me really stood as a stark discrepancy for how we've had to struggle for support with our own district. And so I would love to see both towns support all of our students with the same enthusiasm that I saw.
I just wanted to, so I teach at Pembroke High School, and that was one of the towns. So Pembroke is not a member town of South Shore Voc. It's a $19 million buy-in for them, and they are in no position to get there. So what this district has done over the last 4 years is start a Pathways program, which I think, to Kara's point, it's taken them time, and they took programs that they already had, and they sort of tiered them towards business, marketing, computer science, things like that. The problem is, and I know that, I don't know if Abington has it, but in talking to other schools, there's only so much you can go with that because you need staff, and you need enough staff to offer enough of the courses that the kids are going to take. So if you're in a pathway, it's pretty rigid, right? And so what ends up happening, and unfortunately, and Jeff knows this, what's happening in Pembroke is our music program used to be the shining star of the South Shore, and because of the Pathways program, students can't take their music electives because they are so rigid in a schedule. If you want to graduate, so for example, some of the students at Pembroke can graduate with certain certifications, but they have to take a certain number of courses, and because they have to take these courses, they can't take their passion courses, they can't take their art, they can't take their music, they can't take a creative writing course. And so what unfortunately we're seeing is a significant, I think this year there were 9 students in our band. And just, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the band was 200 plus students. So I hear, and I think we always need to look at what can we offer for students, but it's really awful to see what's happening because we think we can't get into the, in Pembroke it's more unique than Whitman-Hanson, right? Because our kids can go to South Shore Voc Tech. But if we start to offer that here, are we then going to take away other programs? Are we then accidentally going to be taking away other programs? That we just had a wonderful presentation about what music education does for our students. And we just need to be careful when we're making these decisions and when we're talking about this, and we're obviously not talking about it in this budget, but I think the one thing I will say is, we always have to fight for our budget, and to put things in with like a hopefully next year we'll be able to fund them, or hopefully we'll get the support. I think that this budget gives the students what they need to succeed. And of course, I agree. I think, why didn't we add foreign language? Why didn't we add things? But I also think that we've got to be respectful. Hanson last week was talking about a $3 million override. They're going to come after us if we say, oh, we're going to add XYZ, right? And I don't know that it's, then we are the scapegoat once again. And I don't know that that's in the best interest of our kids and what the students need. So those are just comments.
Okay, so I think everybody had their comments on Dawn, so let's talk about the assessment itself.
Yeah, the assessment. Yeah, the assessment. I want to, and of course, I'm coming from a different perspective. I'm coming from the town is supposed to be working from a financial perspective. The town is supposed to be working with numbers and a plan that we gave. And Jeff did, although when we made this 5-year plan, we didn't have the risk of pullback of state and federal aid that we do now. And that should be factored in by the towns. Jeff put forward what would have been, to me, a responsible level funded plan. Service plan, excuse me, thank you so much. Level service plan, with some risks that we might not get the aid. So I'm hoping, I'm with some that this isn't enough because there are risks. We are the only department that holds aids and as much aid and grant and risky finances. Everybody else is funded pretty much heavily from the levy, and ours is a good portion from aid and grants. So I do think that there's a risk that it's too low with what might come in. That's what I'm thinking. I agree with Dawn, looking forward, if you're planning, you want to pay $11,000 and you don't want to pay the $15,000 for those kids. And I want to remind everybody, every vocational kid was our kid first. Every vocational. So if we want them to be able to, we want every child to go where they're supposed to be. We want everybody to be successful, and we want to be those roots for their lives. And if we don't have a budget, we don't have good roots for those kids, they're not going to be the kids that get into the vocational school first, or they may not at all. So if you like vocational, this is also a budget you need to fund as well. So to think that they're separate. So if you're fighting rah vocational and you're not fighting rah basic foundational education, you're really not you're really not, you're disconnected in your thoughts on what has to happen. So Jeff, thank you for putting this forward, but I do think that it's risky. It's not enough, but I understand your situation.
Can I just comment on that?
Yeah.
So I was at a legislative breakfast last week about this, and every district there were a few legislators there, 35 superintendents from the South Shore, and everybody's concerned about that. What we got from the legislators they are working on a safety net in case that happens.
Okay.
Because we wouldn't be the only town devastated or district devastated. So the state has eyes on that as well. The millionaire's tax, whatever they call that, the fair funding, whatever it's called.
Fair share.
The fair share, thank you, is looking at, so the legislators are very much looking at that. And I'll go into something a little later about the House and Ways and Means next week. But that is a risk that is uncertain, and that could come this summer. It could come in fiscal 27. It could come in fiscal 28 as well. We just don't know. So the state has eyes on that, and we wouldn't be the only district impacted. Rough numbers as far as federal grants. The heavy one is the 240 grant, and I think that's 1.4. 1 point what?
1.1, we have a total of 1.9 in all our grants.
Correct. So some of those grants are Title I, 240, and then there's a few others, the after-school program grants and things like that. So we're looking at 1.9 if that all goes away in one fell swoop. So we have those eyes, but I don't know if I could fiscally put that on the town in case that doesn't come back.
Yeah.
Or if it doesn't happen. So it's to be noted, and maybe that's something that we can approach with both boards of select, the select boards as I speak to them, is that there's money out there that could be wiped away with the loss of DOE and some funding. So, thank you.
I think that's a concern for everybody, no matter where they are. We're not the only town that gets grants. We're not the only town that gets that kind of funding. The only towns. Certainly it is all over. We need to really push for this budget. We need to really be careful, but we need everybody to be at the town meeting when this does go through. If both towns go through, which I think they are, both towns going for an override, we must be supportive. We must attend, because if we don't, and that budget and that override does not happen, we could lose probably, if we don't get what we need to get, 21 employees, 14.
Minimally. 14
and then 7, because you have to do another half for unemployment.
Yeah.
So, we need to, I'm all for the foreign language, I'm all for robotics, and hopefully when we are putting forth that the town has requested, what do we want coming up, that we put those in the budget, and because that's what we want, and that's what we need. It's not just what we want, it's what we need. The children need that. I don't want to say want, I want to say need. The children need foreign language in the middle school. They used to have it and we lost it. We used to have a lot of things and we lost it. And that's unfortunate. And that's unfortunate for the children. And we need to really be positive and show up and have your voices heard. That is our job. That is one of the things that we're responsible for, is this budget and the assessments. And we need to show up. You need to speak up. Get up to the microphones and speak. And let your voice be heard. It doesn't always have to be the same people all the time. It's nice to have new voices at the speaking. So I just wanted to put that forth. But is there anybody else who wants to speak about this? Because I do have a member or two from the, I do have Glenn, from the towns who would like to speak, that I've given permission to speak on this. Yes, Glenn.
Okay. Sorry I was late again. On top of it, I didn't charge this thing, so I need to. I can't go back and look. It's what is the assessment you want to push forward right now?
So the assessment, let me get it right here for you, sir. Ask me a tough question now. For the Hanson it would be 9.87, and Whitman is 9.65 this year. The total increase to Hanson is 1.477, 627, and 65 cents. To Whitman, it's an increase of 1.846, 621, 19 cents. And if that's the assessment you decide tonight, we have those motions ready to go.
Okay. I'm not done. Sorry,
Sure.
that was just,
No, that's-
that was just the start.
Just warm it up.
Now, procedural question. So we vote for these numbers, and can they be pushed back to us? Can they be rejected? Okay, so most likely they will.
So no, they
No.
can't be rejected. We can always lower that number.
We can,
At town meeting?
Well, we can lower it as we go. In the past, the towns have said this is what we can afford.
Yes,
And
because what
committee-
I've read is they're almost half of that, what the town says they can
Right.
afford. So
So-
$3 million. Okay, sorry, you want to keep going?
So I was just gonna
I
say-
got my answer.
So we can lower it. The town meeting can vote against that assessment.
It could wind up back here.
Yes,
Okay.
after town meeting
So-
votes it down. Correct.
$3 million for just Hanson. To me, that's like a financial crisis. That's a lot of money. And I don't see, so what we're asking is for us not to be affected by that money. We're going to push this to the town, and either the taxpayer's going to pick up the slack or the town's going to cut jobs. But we're asking not to cut anything, correct? We don't want to cut anything. You guys have to cut and you guys have to pay, but we're not changing what we're doing.
but we're not changing because they're saying they're going for an override.
So that was what I said first. So the taxpayers will pay it.
The taxpayers will.
Right, someone's
And
paying it, but-
Not just for us, for all the
Everything
town,
else,
for
I get
fire,
it.
Police, the town hall,
Yep.
all the employees who work for the town.
Now, is the town are the other departments making cuts?
No,
As
not
of
this
right
time.
now,
Nobody's making cuts.
So as of right now, I wish I could say yes or no. As
We
of
don't
right now,
know.
what I read in the paper.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I will find out more next week at Hanson FinCom. And as of the Whitman Select Board FinCom meeting, there was no alternative budget set. The budget that was set was presented with
Yeah.
the school assessment as is. And that's what we're going to meet about next Tuesday as well, to see if there's going to be, and maybe Mr. Evans or Mr. Kane might elaborate on that, but I know they were working as a subcommittee on potentially what the effect would be if the override didn't pass.
Okay, so,
And that's when, that would affect everybody.
And that would affect everybody.
Yeah, that would affect everybody.
Okay.
So then at that point, there would be cuts all over.
all over. Because like I said, this is a crisis, and I'd like to know what we're doing.
Yeah,
Point of clarification on that.
yeah. I was,
If the school assessment does not change. The
If we don't
assessment
change it.
is the
Right.
assessment.
It's the
So
assessment, 'cause-
if the override fails, we have to be clear on this. If the
Yeah.
override fails,
We keep it.
the school district is not affected.
But we don't have
I
a
know that's
budget.
hard to say.
We don't have a budget.
yeah.
If the towns, and here.
Yeah, we do.
Here, okay.
Who's paying it?
So what I'm saying is this, and again, point of clarification, if the town presents a budget with our assessment, and it passes at town meeting, and it fails at the box, the budget presented still's there, it then comes up to the town to redo a budget, correct?
It'll affect all the other
I mean,
departments.
Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, Justin Evans, the Select Board in Whitman. So yeah, we've been trying to work through these scenarios as well ourselves. I think it would be our intent to vote the budgets as contingent budgets either way. So the entire town and school budget as contingent. So, whether we do a contingent.
That leaves the door
pass
open?
and fail, or just we assume the override passes, this is the budget. However, if it fails on May 17th, we have to come back and vote a town budget, as well as it would be a rejection of the school committee's budget.
Point of
So
clarification.
we're not sure which direction exactly we're going to go
Are you
yet.
speaking with Norfolk Agricultural
Yeah,
about this too?
Yeah, are they part of the contingency? Is VOTEC part of the contingency?
Their budget would also, all of the budgets would fail. So we would reject their budgets as well.
But it wouldn't work. You'd have to pay it anyway.
If 2/3 of the member towns of those districts voted the budget, well, I mean, we don't really have a say in the out-of-district schools. Like, they assess us a cost. And if the students go there, we pay the cost. But for South Shore VOTEC, if Whitman and Hanson rejected it and one other town also rejected it, there's a lot of overrides on the table this year. That's quite possible. Their budget would also fail.
That is
I guess
very
we need
abstract.
4 of the 9 towns to fail for VOTEC.
Ultimately, you got a bill, from all of these things equally, you'll get a bill. And if, you'll hope that everybody else doesn't want to pay that bill. And that's exactly what you're getting in an assessment, a bill. I want to just point of clarification, because everybody's talking about the towns, and bring it back to Jeff. You gave a level funded budget.
Service.
Sorry, you gave it level service budget, and that service is to meet an objective of educating children. Would it be difficult to adjust and not really get these kids where they need to be educationally, real foundation, if we met what they're asking. I mean, in the history of our relationship with the towns, it has never been the question of anybody in the selectman's office, are we really educating kids to go on to have great educations and good foundations? And that's really concerning because it's not a number. It's a whole entire life, a foundation for every job they're gonna get. And it's our responsibility. And we are your bargain. And it seems like you're not reasonably thinking about what it really costs to educate a child. And if we're going to have an honest conversation, start there. Because you're at the low, you know, we've brought it up to kind of average at this point. And you should be like, okay, work with us. And not continuing the manipulations is what I would call it.
We got to stay on our conversation here.
Can I just add, to be fair, neither town has asked me for a number, like this is what the school should be looking for.
Yep.
I just presented what is needed this year, and neither town has said no. Sometimes in the past, towns have said we can't do that.
Yep.
But we have not said that at all this year.
Yeah.
So to be fair, that has
The towns haven't said no yet.
The towns have not said no.
Well,
you know,
that'll be the ballot.
you know.
But
Yes.
usually before, we have gotten.
We get it
when
straightened
ran
out.
this, We got a straight no before we even went in.
I remember going through this last year.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah, Kara.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
It might be to Stephen, might be to you, Justin, I don't know. Maybe to the committee, I don't know. Again, I am not, you know, I'm a fourth grade teacher. I'm not a finance professional, but I'm doing my best to understand. And I think kind of the nature of the conversation that we have repeatedly in this committee is that that sometimes comparing the school asks to other municipal service asks is a little bit of apples and oranges because there are certain legal responsibilities that school districts have that directly impact their finances that don't exist in the same way in other departments. So I'm just looking, and again, please correct me, Stephen, if I'm totally missing the mark on this. So when I look at like in our budget document, the circuit breaker reimbursement, I didn't actually look at the reimbursement information as closely as I looked at the eligible students claimed, which is flat since 2020. I think we're actually down 2 students. And then the total eligible expenses for special ed. That's how much that's total eligible expenses. That's only a portion of our special ed costs, yes?
It's just the portion attributed to those students.
Okay. And so that has increased since 2020, according to my calculations, 56.7% since 2020. Does that sound correct? I mean, it's gone from 3.5 million to 5.5 million in 5 years. So that's,
You're on page 8.
I am,
Yep,
yes,
page
thank
8.
you. Thanks, Dawn.
That's okay.
So that, right? I look at, and I got, again, deeper in here, special ed tuition, I think it's on the expenses. I don't know, I think appendix 1, but they're not, oh, the pages are numbered, sorry, I can find that. So I'm sorry, I'm looking at appendix 1, page 5. Our paraprofessional salaries, our SPED paraprofessional salaries are increasing by 30%. That's our projection. Is that right?
Yes, but part of that is movement of staff from other lines. Like that is not an increase there. It's just that staff were coded incorrectly within the budget prior. So SPED paras
About an increase on
coded as general ed paras, and so we're just cleaning up where staff belong within the budget lines. And a lot of that is due to the breach and that this being a new chart of accounts and things being done on paper last year.
I wasn't actually really, I mean, I guess my point was more that those are not optional. Those are legally required according to fulfill student IEPs. So that's a chunk of money. When I go down further on, sorry, I should have had these page numbers clear. I go further to page 12 of appendix 1. Which is showing, I think that line 8,000 9100 total tuition to mass schools. Those are our outplacement costs, sped outplacement costs.
So 9,100 and then 9,120.
Okay, so those are both, and so those you know, the 9,100 is showing a 36% increase. Again, those are legally mandated IEP services.
Correct. And I just want to mention that the tuitions listed here are only the tuitions that are hitting the operating budget. There are tuitions that are directly hitting circuit breaker and also tuitions to the tune of $1 million that are hitting the 240 grant. So like those numbers and those two lines are not inclusive of the entire school district's out of district tuition costs.
And then I was looking, where was the other part was line 9120 on that same page, which is that our charter school?
That's the assessment, correct.
For our charter schools.
Correct.
It's showing a slight decrease, anticipated decrease next year, 3.41%, but our, when I look at on page 10, our charter school reimbursement anticipated is going down 42.42%.
Correct.
Yes.
So again, we do not have an option to say a child can't go to a charter school and we won't pay tuition. So those are all like sizable monetary line items that are in our budget. And so I think a lot of the chatter, and I don't think it's necessarily coming from FinCom or the select boards, but I think a lot of the chatter is just stay within your budget. Just stay, figure it out. We all need to stay in our budget. Yeah, we all do. But the school district is given requirements for populations of our students that we don't have an option to lean down or cut the fat from. And so the only option, if we cut our budget, the only option is it gets cut from other places, from other student opportunities. And so that, I feel like, to me, from an educational perspective for our populations, continues to need to be something that gets reiterated. And that's what I would ask our select boards and our FinComs to also get behind in terms of just accuracy of communication around that. And I don't think that again, that's not saying that you haven't, it just feels, I would love for it to feel collaborative around that. So those are kind of my thoughts.
Can I just piggyback?
Yes.
I mean, just to piggyback, Kara, last year, you and I went to the Hanson Select Board meeting and explained all of those things to them. And I'm not sure it resonated. And I think it's important, you talk about the special ed services, I think it's important for families out there and everyone to know, if your child sees a counselor at school, whether it's their guidance counselor for college planning, whether it's an adjustment counselor because they're having a bad day, we are mandated to have a certain number of those in buildings. So every child is using these resources, but I think, and sometimes I say to families, whose children might not be on IEPs or 504s, if we cut, they're going to cut services from your kid because that's what's going to happen. And I don't think we recognize that. And maybe that needs to, and I'm not saying, that probably sounded worse than it was, but that's the problem, right? If we have to cut $3 million or $5 million, what was that number? $5 million of our sped, or we got that in reimbursement. That's coming from general ed staff. It's not coming from our special education staff. It's coming from general ed staff. And that is, I agree, it's a problem. And we sat at that meeting last year and we explained and tried to explain and, we got a budget passed eventually, but,
Okay. Sean, I know you had something to say?
Well, first of all, thank you for the budget. Just even putting it together, I thought it was excellent. It was easy to comprehend. It was thorough. I was really impressed by it, so thank you. Secondly, this year is a little bit different because we know it is an override year, so timeline probably is a little bit tighter than you're thinking. Usually, almost up until town meeting, you could kind of lower depending on how things were going. We have to, roughly speaking, I think we have to get the override to the ballot by around April 7th or a little bit after April 7th. I think we probably have a meeting scheduled for April 7th. So by that time, it has to go to the ballot. So then the override number will be fixed, if that makes sense. So keep that in your calculation kind of. And then for me, I think there's kind of two different schools of thought about an override. We know an override is coming. And there's some people on one hand that think, this is our override year. We only get one bite at the apple. If we're going to look for something, let's look for something that we can add, and this is our time to do it. It means that the override would be a little bit more expensive, but let's go for it. Bigger override, add services, make it multi-year. And then there's another school of thought that I've been pretty vocal about, saying, especially with, Hanson has its unique finances. I'm not that familiar with their budget, but in Whitman, with the DPW and the middle school and the South Shore VOTEC, people are going to feel the burden of some of that, obviously, financially. So being conscious of that and thinking, really, we just want to get an override passed. What can we do to get an override passed? If we ask for too much, people simply can't. Maybe there are some people in the middle that likely would go and support an override, but because of their honest financial constraints, might be pushed the other direction because it just feels like too much. So for me, I think it's very important if we're going to ask people to sacrifice that we show them how we're sacrificing. To me, it's clear how you're sacrificing. I know you don't have an educationally sound budget. I've been following your budget for a long time. There are clear things in the budget that need to be there that aren't. The thing that I'm worried about is if we ask for too much, we might get nothing. And right now in Whitman, what nothing looks like, even just to give you a general idea, we did the exercise last year about $500,000. $500,000, this is last year, so don't, things could be tweaked and whatnot, but the library was closing, 3 police, 3 fire, 1 DPW worker, a number of clerical workers, all non-union employees were dropped to 0%. That was just to get close to 500,000. Conservatively speaking, we're thinking right now, if the override doesn't pass, that we're up to 780,000 or more. So another $250,000 from the town's budget. So this is serious, and my priority is to present a budget that the townspeople will think, and there are some department heads that aren't very happy about this right now, holding them tight to as close to 2.5% as we can and as close to 2% on expenses. So we're really trying to hold tight on that. And that, if the override was to pass and the budget that we're proposing right now, which could change, that would be a step back for us. It wouldn't be a level service. So that's kind of the direction that we're heading in. Again, it could change next week when we have the meeting, and I think your input is really important for us to hear. This is serious. So I hope that we can get on the same page. I'm definitely listening carefully. I'm trying to pay attention. I'm following through the budget, and I hear your concerns. Hopefully we can get on the same page and present something to the people that it'll feel like we can step forward together.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Justin, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, echoing what Sean said, although I think I am on the other side of the, we get one bite at the apple conversation. We'll continue that next week. But just looking at the, in putting an override forward, we also have to show what the potential cuts are. And I wouldn't ask the school committee to, tip their hand and show give what a lower level budget would be. But I think the towns are both going to have to make assumptions about what that number looks like. We'll probably reach out to Jeff and say, how many staff members does this equal? And go forward with our best assumptions. So it is not trying to, minimize the work that you guys are doing in certifying a budget. We know that you send the budget to town meeting and town meeting votes it up or down. But we do have to, in order to explain the cost of not passing an override, we do have to show what the losses would be. So
yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
No problem. Yeah. Yeah, Jeff's already figured that out a little bit anyway. Kara?
I had a question and kind of a thought. And I'm going to lose my question because I'm trying to keep too much in after a full day. So a thought I had, or a question, an idea I had. So there is, I think we talked about this, or I referred to this last meeting. And since then, it's only, I feel like I've only seen more of it. I would be challenged to name a town on the South Shore who is not in a similar financial predicament right now. And I think there are probably a multitude of reasons for that. And I think these are towns that range from affluent to middle class to lower income. And so I'm curious about the opportunities or the responsibility of this committee or of the town committees to be advocating at the state level for additional support or for like reform around how some of those funds are released. And I don't necessarily expect an answer from you. I'm just kind of curious about like
the 2.5 program.
I think Prop 2.5 is definitely a factor, but I think just in general around state funding formulas and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think the big reasons that I've seen are the decrease in enrollment, fixed costs. Huge, we're really trying to brainstorm ways that we can, in a creative and intelligent way, get a handle around healthcare and stuff like that. The COVID funds coming off the books, that's another big one. Inflation, it's like those are the big four, like perfect storm of why this feels like such a difficult budget year. Some of those things are beyond our control, but we're trying to get ahead of some of them, and I think working with some of the state legislatures around, the hold harmless obviously that's a big one, and the decreased enrollment is the. Yeah, I don't mean to spark a debate about decreased enrollment. I'm just saying, if they put so much weight in enrollment for funding and the majority of towns have decreased enrollment, then you're obviously putting us at a really difficult spot.
I remembered my other point too. So. Sorry, Rosemary.
No, that's fine.
Again, I think that I've been seen one meeting since in the almost year I've been on this committee where there have been Hanson representatives in similar roles to both of you who have been here. And again, I appreciate your presence and your contribution from a Whitman perspective. As a Hanson resident, I again feel like this should be a collaborative conversation between our committee and those committees and between both towns. And so I feel like, again, Jeff, I'm grateful to hear that it sounds like you have been invited, but that is certainly behind when you were invited to Whitman. So I, again, implore our Hanson leadership to have these similar conversations and to continue that dialogue. So thank you both for your...
Just to add to you, there are 45 from the breakfast last week, 45 towns across the state are going for overrides this year that they knew of as of last week, or at least we're talking, and 245 districts are in hold harmless right now. And I'll elaborate about the House and Ways and Means in a little bit.
Yeah. We were going to talk about hold harmless. 45 districts are in hold harmless. 244 in hold harmless, but there's many more districts. And one of the pushes and one of the risks is having too much hold harmless right now, because they're talking a lot about what's called needs-based aid and pulling from that minimal contribution to towns. And they're saying you could actually afford, where they're saying we can't afford, we actually, by state standards, we can afford. So the risk is if we lose that federal money, and I think they went over the 240 grants, that they're going to turn around and say, okay, we need to start focusing that needs-based money on the most vulnerable populations, which are not us, which are Brockton, which is Boston, and that will go away. So some of those conversations at the table are ones that could hurt us, not help us. So really making sure that we have those funds available. And Jeff, I think you talked before about the Ways and Means Committee and how we can participate into that.
Yes, Don.
One last question to both select board members. Your intent with the contingency budget, I don't know how much you can elaborate on this, but if this committee, because we're looking at what the superintendent has presented as a Whitman operating assessment, this is page 10, 20,982,000. Hanson operating assessment is 16,452,000. Are you saying your intent with the contingency budget is that you would have the number we vote at town meeting and then a contingency budget with a Whitman-Hanson School District assessment in Whitman less than that 20,982,000, so you would have a lower number?
So we haven't had that discussion at the select board level yet of how we're going to propose it, but the two ways that I see it happening are either the higher number, the full assessment, is in the contingency budget along with all of the town departments with their current requests, or their requests, the town administrative recommendations, select board recommendations, as the override budget is the contingent budget. And then if the override passes, it's approved. If the override fails, the budget's rejected for every department.
Meaning there's only one budget that we vote at town meeting, if the override doesn't pass, we must go back and have a special town meeting, as opposed to presenting two budgets.
Yeah.
I feel like that might be cleaner.
And that would play well into the school committee's role of having a rejected budget, having to reconsider and reassess.
Like the rest of it.
Again, I'm wondering how that impacts the other public school assessments that are on that budget, as well as the Plymouth County assessment, because you get an assessment from Plymouth County, which is a bill, as member Rosemary Hill mentioned, and you need to pay that Plymouth County assessment. So assessments are, towns are mandated to pay those.
And so the only other one that I think would be a rejected regional budget would be VOTEC, and they need 6 of the 9 member towns to pass it. I believe 4 of the 9 are going for overrides right now, so it is an open question if they all do it the same way.
Yeah, thanks for clearing that up, because it sounds like why we go through this exercise is because we are simply a 2-member regional town. Right. So we're easy to beat up on, I'm going to put it that way.
Yeah.
And you can't go back to those multi-town and say to them, hey, so there you are, standing, coming to us saying, I go look. That's really what it's historically been, and let's.
I don't. If I could just respond to that, I would never want to send that message. It's more like right now the town of Whitman has only taken in about $1 million in revenue above last year. Just the district assessment is 1.8. So you can see how we're in a difficult bind just in what we can naturally afford. You know what I mean? So I think I think you're all good people, and I think you're practical and logical. And if the override failed, I would respect your opinion and figure out, how do we get through this together? You wouldn't want to see the town be completely demolished, but we'd have to wipe out the vast majority of our employees just to keep your level of service. It's just not logical. We'd want to work it out together, and that's what we're talking about.
Can you explain what you meant?
Glenn has a question too.
Glenn?
So basically he's saying that the contingency is the override. So you're rolling the override in on the number that you're going to present.
Yeah, I think Sean and I are on the same page there. We're like the easiest way to understand it for town meeting, for our conversations, for everybody, is one budget, it's the override, and if the override fails, the school committee
Then the contingent is we have to.
So we would need a special town meeting anyway.
Right, because the budget won't work without the override.
We haven't voted that yet at the select board level. but
I just
that's
meant
kind of
the idea of that.
Yeah.
The idea.
I understand it now.
Yep.
Just educationally sound budgets is what our objective is. We're supposed to have educationally sound budgets. Thank you for bringing up that we currently do not have an educationally sound budget. And money needs to be in place to do that. So I have a question, because again, my colleague has mentioned, we have legal obligations to create an educationally sound budget. And it seems like there has not been a preparation from the towns to recognize what it costs for us to meet our legal obligation to provide that educationally sound budget. I can worry about all kinds of things after that's done, but you can't come back and ask us, oh, how about that percent of the kids do not really get what they really need educationally, so that we don't have to aggressively explain that you haven't budget. To get to a point to not have an educationally sound budget, it means that over the years there's been activity to underfund education. And let's not pretend that hasn't happened. The rhetoric, schools cost too much when they're we're third lowest in the state for funding per student. All of that propaganda and rhetoric has led us to a point where we're not really servicing kids the way that we need to. And then parents are taking kids elsewhere, costing more. Let's rethink how we're doing this and get to a place where our focus is educationally sound and build on that, please.
Gary, did you have your hand up again?
Sean, I think it was you, Sean, that just made the comment, or maybe it was you, Justin. Again, I'm very tired. Around that your revenue for this year has only increased $1 million as a town. So this is, again, another conversation I feel like I have been trying to have, or to encourage over the past however many years, Sean, you and I have been involved in this conversation, right? I think Whitman obviously has a larger, but still not large, commercial tax base. Hanson has a much smaller one. And there are a lot of people in our communities who want to keep that small town farm country feel. which that's their prerogative to keep. They like that sense of community, but that you can't have that and not expect that the burden for tax goes on the homeowners, the taxpayers, right? And so it's like you need to prioritize. And again, my question for some of the leadership of both towns, but specifically Hanson as a Hanson resident, is what is their plan for their 5-year plan, their 10-year plan to increase revenue opportunities in the town outside of a residential tax base? Because otherwise, we're going to continue to have these conversations. It's going to continue to fall on the shoulders of residential taxpayers, and I think it's just really frustrating for me to have, population in Hanson that says we can't afford more, we can't afford to pay more in taxes, and I get that, but also we don't want to invest in a plan to bring in more businesses. We don't want to create more business opportunities or business zoning in town because we like this small town feel, and it's just something at some point has to compromise. And so that to me is also kind of a sticking point around revenue generation, because the revenue generation shouldn't be like we're generating revenue because we're cutting money. The revenue we're generating is the money we're cutting out of the school budget or out of the fire department budget or wherever else. It's just that's the part that I think is really challenging.
We definitely.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jeff, did you want to talk about the Ways and Means?
No, if I can now.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'd like
we
to.
talked about it.
Yeah.
So you guys have talked a little bit about advocacy, I guess, on Monday, and I'm sharing with this committee for anybody at home. The Joint Ways and Means Committee from the State House is scheduled a FY26 budget hearing focused on local aid, education, and municipal on Monday, the 24th at 11 a.m. At the UMass Campus Center in Amherst. George, Nikki, and I will be attending that, as well as local superintendents to advocate for. Currently, the House and Senate Ways and Means are crafting the FY26 state budgets to be unveiled in April, in May in the Senate. This hearing is vital. Please encourage school committee members, town officials, elected representatives, parents, and community members to join in attending. In FY26 H1, 232 districts will be classified as hold harmless, meaning towns must shoulder the cost of their budget increases, a situation that's become untenable. The Chapter 70 education formula no longer is serving our committees. In your packets, I've put a letter that was recommended by MASS, MASC, MASBO to our legislators that I will be sending out tomorrow with some details as far as how this hold harmless affects our school district. We will be there advocating with representation from our associations to look at that spending formula. If anybody from the towns want to go, this is an opportunity because I think they're talking municipal too. It's just not Chapter 70, hold harmless. It's really how we fund our cities and towns. So we will be going there on Monday to work with other local superintendents to advocate for this. I fully recognize, and I think at one of the select board meetings you talked about 2.5. That's all your new growth is 2.5, and that's in your locked. That's old. That was 1983. It's 2025 right now, and there has to be a serious look at, and this is an I statement, serious look at how we fund our localities and our municipalities. So this is an opportunity. I don't know if it's going to change anything. I know Rep. Sullivan, Almeida, is on the House Ways and Means, so I hope to see her there. I shot her a text yesterday, but I hope to see her there and have that. It's a local ear. She's here. She represents us, and I think she's represented us fairly well. I know she's fiscally conservative, but fairly well, and she's a proponent of schools. And we have a good relationship. So if anyone else wants to go, we'll be there. It's a short ride to Amherst, about 2 hours, and we'll be there at 11 o'clock.
They have a Zoom meeting too.
Okay.
You can Zoom in.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yep.
Yes,
I want to give Sean a chance to respond to that.
Just a quick response to Kara. We definitely have some irons in the fire for long-term growth as far as like getting revenue. But right now, in the immediate, the interest rates, people aren't putting on additions like they were, building houses like they were. I mean, there's still some building, but not as much as there was. Excise tax is obviously affected by the amount of people who are buying cars in Whitman, you know what I mean? So our revenue is down, I think, primarily because of inflation. Like the interest rates going up just brought the building down and brought the new cars down, and that's where our revenue had dropped a little bit. we're doing the things like you said, looking at zoning and looking at some bigger building projects, but those things take, they don't take months, they take years. So we're thinking about it for sure on the Whitman side, and definitely looking down the road, but in the short term, we're in a bind. It's one of those things.
Can't help my reaction is revenue's down. But when did we ever hear in the past that revenue was up?
Yeah, when revenue was up, you didn't have that money either.
1995.
We didn't.
Right.
Yeah, you still didn't educate.
It's not there.
Stephen had it.
Stephen.
That's good. Jeff, just I mentioned to you on your letter that you're sending to the representatives, can you explain hold harmless status?
So hold harmless status really is the number that the state allocates a certain amount of Chapter 70 for us every year. When enrollment goes down, the state's really supposed to lower that number to us, but they don't. Okay, so that's that level. But they don't give us excess money. Every year, the governor's budget allocates a certain amount more per student. 2 years ago, it was $35 a student. I think, what did we end up last year? At 75?
I don't know what it actually is, but I don't think that's 75.
But that makes a little dent in our budget, whereas other towns outside of the 234 might get a bigger bite of the apple, more Chapter 70 money. So they don't penalize us for decreasing enrollment, but we don't get any additional. So Kara had mentioned, and this is, again, the shell game a little bit, we received $75 potentially for FY26 in Chapter 70 money, which is a nice $500,000 bump. Awesome, it's more than 140 that we got last year. However, they reduced our reimbursement for charter schools by $240,000. So our net gain is 300 versus the 5. So they moved some things around to say, well, you got some more money in Chapter 70 money. And I say it's a bad thing, but that's what I see as figures, and they just move the allotments around. So it's kind of sending the same amount of money, but splitting it up in a different way.
And I see in the letter, this is sort of an explanation. Sure. I was just curious about the term itself. Thank you.
Sure.
Yes, Hillary.
I want to reiterate what Kara said. Thank you both for being here and attending our meetings. As a Hanson resident, it's hard to sit here and read the Express and kind of have an idea, but not really have an idea. I think that one of the things I want to point out is that, so if my calculations are correct, this is my 4th budget, maybe my 5th, I don't know. So every year, and this might be the first year that we haven't, but every year that we have presented a budget, we have then come back with a second budget to take from E&D, to not refill retirements. We're going to move this position around to part-time. We have done things to lower the assessments to the towns. So the narrative that we're not working with the towns and that we're not trying, we have done that. And I spoke at Hanson Town meeting last year when it was put on the schools to do an override that, and Beth kind of said it earlier, we cut things. So we went into the pandemic less than other districts around us. And so, yes, we used ESSER money to kind of get on a level playing field, and especially with kids who needed that. Those kids still need that. And there are so many things, and John talked about at the beginning, there are a lot of things that are not in this budget that if you drive 5 minutes down the road, they've got that. And they're not fighting every single year about, I can't believe it's this much, I can't believe it's this much. We have always worked, and begrudgingly, I think last year we used E&D and we didn't fulfill a couple of retirements.
Yeah.
Five.
So when we're saying we're not cutting positions, I mean, and looking at another department in town is definitely apples to oranges, but I would like to know other departments that have not filled retirements. I know that in Hanson last year, they laid off workers, and then when free cash came in October, all those workers got their jobs refilled. So did that really need to happen, or was that a bargaining chip to use to get the school to bow down? And we didn't, right? And I think that that's really important on this committee. We did not. We stuck and we said, no, this is a budget the kids need. And yes, I think that we do need to give the kids more, but we can't take from this. And I look at and I did some research and I looked at what we did every year, and every single year we use E&D to the point that it's affecting our bond rating. And you have a building, right, that is a loan that's taken out by the district. And so to help you, we've ruined our bond rating. Ruined isn't probably the right word. I don't know. But right? So all of these things are coming around. So I think it's really important, you know, and it is what it is, but we have worked with the towns, we have done everything, and we can't do more. We can't cut from this, we can't.
We don't have the E&D to do it this year. We don't have the ability to do it. We did our cuts already. That was bare minimum last year. We took the last pot out of the E&D. That's not happening this year. So the only thing that can be done is if this does not pass, then we're cutting people. That's that bottom line, because there's no fat. There really isn't any fat. I know people don't agree. I know townspeople don't agree, but you know, I have lived in this town for over 50 years. I taught in this town for 35, 40. There's no fat here. There never has been. We had extras before that weren't really fat. We had the foreign language in the middle school. We had, they had workshop, wood shop and metal work when my oldest son went to school at the middle school. We had all these things. I wouldn't call that fat. And I just hope that we, as I said earlier, we need to show, as the fire department, as the police department, they're all going to say the same thing. So we need to be there and show why. You know, we have done, as Hillary says, every year, as far as I can remember, we've been taken out of E&D, right? We don't have it this year. We can't do that. So we really need to, stick to what we say, you know, and you know, we were strong last year. I want us to be strong this year and coming up, and decide what can we do in the years coming. What can we do to get these things back that we need, that the kids need, not that we need, the kids need. Yes. Stephanie?
I just want to also point out, just like every homeowner's insurance has gone up, the gas bill, the electric bill, all of that impacts the schools and the buildings also. So again, a lot of what we're looking at isn't optional. We can't not pay the electric bill. I don't know, since Whitman, I mean, do the Hanson schools, the schools that are technically in Hanson, benefit from the Hanson lower electricity rates that they got?
We contract out ourselves as a district.
Okay.
And then we assess the towns through the budget what per pupil the costs are.
Okay.
So,
it's different.
yeah.
So,
We're a municipality unto itself.
and so, I mean, I'm kind of new here, so I'm still trying to figure all this stuff out, but it sounds like we should have a lot of bargaining power as two towns with a unified school district and all these employees in both towns in all these areas of health insurance, just the regular insurance that we have here on the properties. And I don't know if that's something that, you know, the select boards might be able to work with us on trying to get a better rate for some of this stuff, but we really aren't padding this at all. There's no pad. It's literally everything has gone up for the cost of living. We are required to pay those things, and I really don't want to see our students suffer with larger class sizes, with reduced programming, with issues with busing. I mean, like, I really feel like our school district does a phenomenal job with the very minimal budget that we are allowed. And it's just really important for people to understand we're not looking to glorify anything or, make anything super fancy. We're just looking to be able to continue to get by.
We got a good Chevy.
And, and quite frankly, I get it. Like, I pay taxes too. We all do. So none of us are like, yes, raise our taxes. But we know what needs to be done. And we just want everyone to understand we are doing the best that we possibly can. But our teachers are not getting paid overtime. There are no overtime opportunities. There are
a stipend.
But there's not the same. Other town employees do have opportunities for overtime, for additional
revenue.
Yes, thank you. So, I mean, you really need to understand, we're just trying to pay our teachers a living wage, our paraprofessionals, our administrators, our administrative staff, living wage, and pay the other bills that we have to pay. So we really appreciate the support from the towns and hope that they will continue to support them.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, I'm not going to beat on a dead horse here. A lot of different people have talked about the whole, there's no fat in this. There are a lot of things in this budget that we don't have the choice of whether to pay or not. But we all hear the commentary out there about, we're just signing checks and throwing money out the windows left and right, and it's just not accurate. There's a lot of this budget in here that we don't have any say in whether we pay it or not. So some of this is okay. If we had to cut back some of this budget, we're providing less services, we're providing worse class sizes. Some of these program offerings that Don was talking about, which I think are a wonderful idea. I'm a huge fan of the vocational stuff. I'd love to see some stuff like that included, but we can't go there right now. And if we start cutting even more,
never get there.
We're going to lose students, and that costs us more money too.
Yeah.
So cutting in the way that some of these people in the social media sphere want to see done doesn't cut.
It's going to make it more expensive.
It just changes the line item where these monies come from, and the line item over here is going to be a lot more expensive than the line item over here. I think we should be looking at this and saying, like Stephanie just said, I'm not looking forward to writing a much larger tax bill every year. Nobody here is. All right, but I also understand the reality of the situation is that the education of our students is our primary directive. That is what we're here to do. It is the most important thing that anybody in town can do, whether you have students in the school system or not. You're supporting the schools, helps your property values. Better schools equals better property values. You know what I mean? People want to, stop living, paycheck to paycheck and have more equity built in their houses and be able to sell these houses for more at some point and have more value in those houses. One of the ways you do that is through investing in the schools. And you're not going to get there by saying, all right, well, we need 30 kids in every class. We need to cut all these music and programs that Mr. Daigle and Mr. Rowe are here showing us tonight. My son is a part of those, and Rosemary's son too. You don't get there by cutting programs like that. A rising tide lifts all boats. You know what I mean? We want to make sure that we're funding the education that we need.
Just quick, because I think we've all had a discussion. So,
were we talking about cuts, though?
Okay, we're going to move to the...
one cut. There is a place to cut. And I want to say this, but it's not one that we have any control over. Because there's only one place that has nothing to do with education. It would be an awful inconvenience for every single parent that we can't control. But there's only one place that we can cut, and the towns control that. And it's in the regional agreement, and that's the busing, the mandate. And let me tell you, that would be hell for every parent to have to get up every morning. So it's the only place, because I think it's really important to listen to Mr. Kane's, what he said. We do not have an educationally sound budget. We are required to do that. That's our job. We do not have it, and our selectmen know that. So I don't understand why they would come back here. And I think somebody else said, just beat up on the small kid, beat up on the weakest.
Okay,
so
good. All right, so
So
let's move to,
We just need the motion. Are we ready to?
Yeah, do you have the-
Jen, do you have
the actual motion,
I
please?
said usually Mr. Boyce raises his hand to do the motion. I think we've written it, it's on record a few years in a row.
Rosemary's motioned and I seconded.
Yes.
Yep.
And but it's okay to read this?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay. Whitman-Hanson Regional School District, Whitman-Hanson Regional School District School Committee FY '26 motions. The first one being FY '26 General Fund Budget Vote. I move to certify the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District fiscal year 2026 budget in accordance with the PK through 12 Whitman-Hanson Regional School District Agreement, Section 4E, open and close parentheses 2, and Mass General Law, Chapter 71, Section 16B at $66,306,276.19.
You second that?
Yep.
I second it.
Yep.
You second.
Okay.
So we have to vote on each individual.
Each individual,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
And all in favor? Opposed? Okay. All right, 9-1. Okay, next.
Number 2, I better do the glasses on. Forgot the first time. 2, FY '26 Hanson Operating Assessment. I move to set the fiscal year 2026 Whitman-Hanson Regional School District Operating Assessment for the town of Hanson in accordance with the PK through 12 Whitman-Hanson Regional School District Agreement, Section 4E, open close parentheses 2, and Mass General Law, Chapter 71, Section 16B at $16,452,362.70.
Second. Second. Sorry.
Okay. All in favor? Okay. Opposed? Okay, 9-1.
3, FY '26 Whitman Operating Assessment. I move to set the fiscal year 2026 Whitman-Hanson Regional School District Operating Assessment for the town of Whitman in accordance with the PK through 12 Whitman-Hanson Regional School District Agreement, Section 4E, open close parentheses 2, and Mass General Law, Chapter 71, Section 16B at $20 million, $20,982,307.68.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Okay, opposed? Okay, 9-1.
Okay.
Oh, there's 7.
That's it. That's it.
That's it?
That's it. I think.
Okay.
Good job.
Well, one more?
Hanson non-mandated,
Got it. Thank you.
7.
Sorry.
That'll take us to 30.
Number 4, FY '26 Hanson non-mandated transportation assessment. I move to certify the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District fiscal year 2026 non-mandated transportation assessment for the town of Hanson in accordance with the PK through 12 Whitman-Hanson Regional School District Agreement, Section 4E, open close parentheses 2, and Mass General Law, Chapter 71, Section 16B at $47,887.55.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, 9-1. Rosemary?
Tell them to come back. I didn't give the Whitman non-mandated yet.
That's where we can cut. That's where they sound.
All right, go ahead.
5, FY '26 Whitman non-mandated transportation assessment.
Vote it.
I move to set the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District fiscal year 2026 non-mandated transportation assessment for the town of Whitman in accordance with the PK through 12 Whitman-Hanson Regional School District Agreement, Section 4E, open close parentheses 2, and Mass General Laws, Chapter 71, Section 16B at $207,520.36.
Second.
Who second? Who seconded? Okay, Kara seconded. Okay, all in favor? And opposed? Okay.
6, FY26 Hanson Debt Assessment. I move to set the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District fiscal year 2026 debt assessment for the town of Hanson in accordance with the PK through 12 Whitman-Hanson Regional School District Agreement, Section 4E, open close parentheses 2, and Mass General Law, Chapter 71, Section 16B at $234,197.57.
Okay. Jeff, you want to explain what that is, if people don't understand what the debt
ahead, Stephen.
assessment? Stephen can,
Yep.
just because it's a little bit different, and I don't know that everybody understands.
So the debt assessment is specific to each town. So Hanson, I believe, has some HVAC debt assessment that they're paying, and they're still paying for this building. So that's what those are. The Whitman Middle School project will be coming with additional debt assessment. We don't know what that is until we go out to borrow.
Okay.
Is that?
So is that their building piece, the high school portion plus their HVAC?
Yes,
So the HVAC is a separate.
No,
Down-
on this debt, the debt assessment.
How much, this debt assessment is 230, how much did you say it was?
234,197.56.
Yep, those are it's the high school.
Right, and then further down, there's the HVAC.
Yeah,
They're
those
separate.
ones, yeah, those have already been voted, so
Thank
those
you.
are fine, yes.
Okay. All right, so do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All right, all in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, go ahead.
7, FY26 Whitman Debt Assessment. I move to set the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District fiscal year 2026 debt assessment for the town of Whitman in accordance with the PK through 12 Whitman-Hanson Regional School District Agreement, Section 4E, open close parentheses 2, and Mass General Law, Chapter 71, Section 16B at $368,162.43.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, unanimous. Okay.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Oh, wait,
That's it,
did we
right?
have to do the HVAC debt assessment?
We good?
No, we already
It's already been voted.
voted that last year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's just
Sorry.
there.
Yeah.
Is that what's-
You good?
it's explaining?
Stephen, you
Yes.
good? Okay.
We voted it last year.
I was too busy looking at.
Yeah, yeah, they
Okay.
also voted to approve it. So we're
Yes.
sending them the bill.
Yeah.
We're having it done, getting the bill and sending them the
Okay.
bill. Okay?
Right, back to minutes.
Okay. Yeah.
We could, it's up to you. Yeah. We could, we're not going to finish it, right?
Yeah. Okay, so we're back to approval of meeting minutes from February 12th, 2025.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay? Any discussion? Yes, Chris?
Did the corrections that Dawn
Yes.
sent via email are included?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yep, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor?
I'm going to abstain, I wasn't here.
And one abstention. Okay?
Coming back to me, just a very brief discussion on school choice. So we have to have a public meeting and vote on school choice. Normally, I would do it this month. I'm kind of in a conundrum because I don't want to have a meeting and vote on school choice, approved or not approved, and if it is approved, and we don't have a budget after town meeting, and then I have accepted students. So I'm asking the committee for some thought. We can do a public hearing in April with a tentative that if we have a budget that's satisfactory to the regional school district, no matter what, we can talk about it. My concern is that if for some reason things don't go in the way that I'd like them to go, and I'm reducing staff, and I have committed to choice students coming here, that will be untenable for our classrooms. So I'm just having that discussion now, because usually we'd be having an open meeting, a public hearing, and we've talked about pros and cons. So I'm asking the committee to, potentially delay into May, the vote on choice, if that's okay with the committee.
Don't we not need to do it till June?
I need it by June.
Yeah.
I need to let the state know by June.
Mm-hmm.
So
Stephen?
That's one thing I was going to ask was, what would be the
It's
latest?
the end of June. I have to tell the commissioner or Desi whether or not we're a school choice district or not.
What about families, thank you for that, what about families that are thinking ahead of time and they need to put in their requests because of something else, I don't know?
So I'm less concerned about families that don't live in town right now. I'm more concerned about the fact that
Families live in town.
if I have to reduce, and I hope I don't, that will be overextended to our own community.
And one last thing, is it, if we don't vote, then school choice is on the table no matter what? Is that what that was?
Yes.
So yes, if we choose not to vote, it's automatically, you're approved. You vote school choice down.
Yeah.
Right,
Correct.
yeah,
You can only vote out.
You can only vote out, correct. So that's why I'm postponing a vote to, you know what I mean?
Okay.
To see where we're at. Yeah, it wouldn't affect kids already here that are choice. These would just be new students to Whitman-Hanson. And again, we're early in. We haven't been in a situation like this before with a potential override that I'm concerned about.
Gotcha.
Can I just add something? So just for maybe new members or members who don't know, Dawn gave a number tonight that in Whitman, it costs the town $9,000 per pupil. I think that's accurate, Dawn, what you said, for school choice. So if we take in a student from another district, we get $5,000. So we don't even get the match for what it costs. So just fodder to think about.
And on that, just as a note, students can, no matter what we do, students can school choice out.
Yep.
And then we're on the hook for that cost.
Just quickly, we get from the other town that amount, but does that include in our, it increases our enrollment amounts for
No,
Chapter
no.
70?
They're certified as school choice kids, so it wouldn't be Chapter 7.
It wouldn't go into
It wouldn't
Chapter
go,
70?
it would go into
Only get
foundation.
5,000 per
It
student.
doesn't go into foundation.
Yes, Karen?
Yeah.
If we have a child that is accepted into school choice here and either they come with an ed plan or they qualify for an ed plan after they're here, who is responsible for those special education costs?
Sending town.
Okay, thank you.
So if it's over and above,
Yeah.
there is a percentage that the town would send more. And if it would be an extension of an out-of-district, the sending town is responsible for that cost.
Okay, thank you.
And transportation. So, okay, so we're going to do this
Yeah,
after?
that's fine.
Okay, so I just wanted to pull that out. Next is I need an approval of the draft calendar if we want to do that tonight. We did a first read last meeting. I didn't change anything on it. There was some discussion around, Good Friday, yes or no, moving it. Right now, we scheduled it for a half day on Good Friday.
And just remember, even though we vote this tonight, it can be changed at any time. So we're just voting. And like Jeff said to me, the reason we want to vote it now is because to let parents know when school starts and when school ends.
Yep.
Yep.
That's the important date that everybody needs to know right now. The rest of it is whatever. So that is not important. It's the start date and the end date. So if we vote this, Jeff can come back and give us some additional things that need to be changed. Yes.
Motion to approve.
Just a minute. Okay.
I was going to jump to that second.
There you go, Stephen.
I was going to add my
That's
new
Steve's
speaking
job.
voice going. Second.
Okay. Well, that was it. You didn't have a question, Steve?
No.
Oh, okay, you're just being pushy.
I'm sorry, Steve.
There you go. Oh, you spoiled his parade. Okay, so it is now.
Oh, wait, we didn't vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hello. All in favor? Calendar? There we go. Unanimous, all set. It is now 8:15. We have a meeting tentatively scheduled for next week. That will be after the meetings that Jeff and I will be going to with the Select Board Finance Committees to give a report and do some of these other items. So I do have a suggestion. I know there's a discussion in here that maybe we could do like district happenings or something like that and put the rest off till next week. I know it's tough, but we were.
Do you want to vote the field trip, though?
Yeah,
I know we could, the field trip, we could do that.
Just pull that out.
the field trip, and just postpone everything else to next week. Because we do have some, big, I think
some
important
discussions,
discussions here.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say, oh, you got 15 minutes, or we can add another 15, and, our budget discussion took a lot, but that's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, sure.
And there was good discussion tonight, so I appreciate it. I don't want to cut any other discussion short. So why don't we do a couple of the little things? That's okay with everybody? And then we will definitely meet next Wednesday. Okay, because it was scheduled, so. All right, so I'll do the DECA first. Okay, so the DECA trip is for 4/26 to 4/30, going to Orlando. This is the national conference. That number of students are 2 to 3 going, and so can I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? The field trip? Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I support the field trip. The cost to this per student is $500, and it says no cost to the district, so nothing out of our budget. But the funding source isn't filled out, so I just wonder in the future, we can know, are they fundraising for it? Are they paying out of their pocket? I don't know if that's supposed to be
Probably
filled
doing
in.
both. I'm not sure if they really are fundraising a lot. I think it's out of their pocket.
Yeah, so that would be
Because it's
an other.
nationals, right?
Yeah,
So it'll be other.
self-funded.
Usually the kids who go to nationals, the first, like the one that's on the Cape, usually they all fundraise because most of the DECA kids go, and then this one, like you have to qualify for, so usually, because they don't
But I'll have them fill it out in the future. It's probably
Yeah,
San Pacific.
and hopefully if there's a student who is reaching that level, but they're unable to self-fund it, that the district through some organized fundraising is supporting that.
Usually, if that happens, we can help that family.
Okay.
There are ways that we can, outside the district budget, we have some folks that I can always call on to help students who need.
I appreciate hearing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nobody usually is never able to go because of finances.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, unanimous, thank you.
Let me just grab district happenings right now.
Yes, go right ahead.
Because regional agreement will push off.
Yeah.
So I'm going to call Nikki up, but usually Nikki's really long-winded, so I'm going to wait for Nikki to come up. And she's a gifted public speaker. She loves being on camera. Get ready.
There's a lot of great things
But I'm going
to say.
to, before you speak, because I want you to finish up, because last night was so outstanding.
Thank you.
I just want to, tomorrow at 6:30 in the Performing Arts Center, Conley Elementary is hosting a cybersecurity event presented by the district attorney's office. It's called Protect Your Kids in the Digital World. Join our cyber safety event. So 6:30 tomorrow night for parents out there. It's not only Conley, we've done it district-wide to try to get folks in. So I'll be here tomorrow night for that. Little did you know that last week was National Cookie Week, and Duval Elementary celebrated National Cookie Week to honor Whitman's history with the chocolate chip cookie. The entire school signed a chocolate chip cookie per class. Then third grade kids and their teachers laid out tons of cardboard and grocery bags to make a huge cookie. The whole school sat around it and waved at Mr. Casey, who's our digital photography teacher, as he flew his drone overhead to get some good shots. Great collaboration with high school and a nice celebration of Whitman pride. Duval also had an artist in residence last week. Josh Weiner has now worked with every student at Duval. If you get a chance, they have a wall of little chips. They put together a huge mural on the side. He also led a family night for 18 families who can't usually volunteer during the day. They were there. Josh is here this week working with kids and our art teacher, Allison Brown. It's been a great team effort. I already talked about that. And also our art students, Mari Santalucia, Olivia Siri Injano, and I practice that all day and I can't nail it now. Ryder Averill, Savory McKay, DJ St. Aim, Oliver Higgins, A.B. Pardo, and Lulu Durenzo, Cameron Rowell, and Emily McKnight. Their work was selected by part of the Massachusetts Art Education Association Digital State Art Exhibition celebrating Youth and Art Month. I'm going to give that to you. Their photos, I'll send it to you in the drive. Okay? And then Nikki's going to wrap us up tonight, I think, with our festivity of last night.
Jeff, I just have one thing. The cybersecurity is next Thursday, not.
No, it's tomorrow.
The email that went out on school status says next Thursday.
That's not good.
No. So, yeah, I just know because I have a meeting next Thursday, and I was like, oh, bummer. I just double checked.
I think it was originally scheduled for the 27th, right? Are you checking this calendar, George? Okay.
I just checked my email.
Okay, thanks. If it's next Thursday, that's great. It frees me up even better.
Yeah.
Last night was going to be tough.
Sorry.
But that's good.
Sorry if that
All right, Nick, thanks.
So I will be brief. We had the recipe book. So last night we hosted our family food festival here. And we had 20 students, or 20 tables where this was truly, truly a community event. Thank you. Rosemary was there. We had music, Brian and Greg and their teams were there. We had art. We had athletics helped us. And then any student, what we did was we put QR codes in all the classrooms, and any student who wanted to sign up and choose a country, they got to choose. Parents and grandparents were there behind those tables helping. We got passports for any of the little kids that were 10 and under, and we got stamps for all of the countries, and so they'd go around and they'd stamp their books. It was just, it was such a fabulous night of like community and smiles and people asking, are we doing this again? And so I appreciate the opportunity to get to share, and it was truly an event that took the community to put it on. It was by no means any one person. This recipe book was actually one of the teachers' ideas to, can we put recipe books together? So it was a fabulous night. We are going to do it again next year. And so I just appreciate the opportunity. You'll see some pictures and snippets if you take a look at snippets. And we just really enjoyed to celebrate community and all the different dishes. And the kids were really amazing. It was a night for the kids, really, truly. So. Yeah.
Thanks to Mr. Rowe,
Yeah.
Mr. Daigle for the music. You know, it was a great night all around.
It really was community. Jeff was and George were there as well. The local clergy were there, like everybody was there. And all of our children come from all over the place with, you know, they're American with their roots, and, you know, some are first generation, some are, you know, just budding Americans, but they brought their cultural food. And it was so delicious.
That was really good.
Even if you just took a little bit from everybody, you had a whole plate. It was great.
Hillary, you're right. It's next Thursday. I was wrong, had it wrong on my notes. So next Thursday. So here we go. Everybody keep planning for me.
I still can't go, but.
So perfect.
Good save, though. Good save.
Thank you.
Hillary.
Any public comment?
No.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you, folks.
See you next
Good work tonight, next Thursday.
We're going to
Wednesday.
table
Next Wednesday.
executive session.
next Wednesday.
Yes.